Hi everyone, my name is Juan Medina. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kaffe Bueno. We are an industrial biotechnology company based in Copenhagen, and what we do is that we upcycle spent coffee grounds and we turn them into ingredients for functional foods, beverages, or cosmetics. Next, please. So as it was mentioned, our focus is to change that perception that coffee is only caffeine. Coffee is so much more than caffeine. As we learned, me and my two co-founders growing up in Colombia, we see coffee in spas for cosmetic applications, for hair dyes, to treat wound infections. There are different uses that coffee has been traditionally used in Colombia, and furthermore, of course, is the one of the most important, if not the most important crop in Colombia. So our idea is to create this new value and out of coffee that at the end of the day eventually will go back into farmers all around the world, not only in Colombia, additionally getting some additional profits for them. Next. So why coffee? Coffee is packed with polyphenols, lipids, sugars, proteins, and lignin. This means that in your cup, usually only 1% ends up. Instant coffee maybe is around 20, 30%, but it's still a lot of good stuff for human health left behind. Coffee beverage itself, there's also variety of studies that has been associated with reduced risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease or cancers, and neurological diseases. Also, it has been associated with skin aging and UV protection and wound healing. Next, please. So why Europe and why Denmark, and why are we doing this? The main reason and what we found out while we were studying and working in London was that all this coffee that farmers put so much care into it, they were severely undervalued, and at that moment in time in 2016, 2015, 2017, there was a huge economic crisis in the coffee industry because actually their farmers were getting paid less than what actually was their cost to farm the coffee. We realized that the reason that this was happening was because the majority of manufacturers all around the world, they are only paying to use 1% of that bean. So of course, if you are not using the full biomass, why would you like to pay for the full entire biomass? So if we kind of show this new value, ideally we will increase the price of this raw material. At the same time, it doesn't make any sense from an environmental point of view in general for all the countries in Europe to export so many tons of coffee. To put it in perspective, last year in Europe, more than 3 billion kilos of coffee were imported to only use 1%, and the other, even though it can end up in generating energy through burning or in biogas, it doesn't really use as efficiently this resource. So we aim to create these new natural ingredients that can ideally not only save the environment, but also contribute to solve some of the most pressing human health concerns. Next, please. So our solution is to create a decentralized network of coffee biorefineries. How it works is that we make partnerships with different industrial coffee producers. Can be instant coffee manufacturers, big coffee manufacturers, offices, hotels. Then we collect the coffee from these places, who we then deliver it to our biorefinery, where we fractionate it and separate it into compounds. We have focused a lot from scratch to create I would like to think one of the most sustainable and state-of-the-art biorefineries in the world. We only use green chemistry and biotechnology to break down the coffee. We have a closed-loop water system and a very efficient downstreaming method. Our aim is to valorize every single part of the coffee while minimizing losses. At the end of the day, we sell these as ingredients to other manufacturers, or we transform it into higher value ingredients to meet other demand. Next, please. So our first product that we have in the market is our Kaffe Bueno oil, which we have focused on the cosmetic industry due to the interesting properties that we have found after doing different in vitro and ex vivo studies. This is anti-aging, photo-aging, moisturizing, and as well anti-wound healing properties. This is due to its very interesting fatty acid composition and high amount of polyphenols and tocopherols. You can also use it as a flavoring agent with the food industry and as well enhance the shelf life of your products. Next, please. This is some of the brands that are using already our oil. This is something that is in the market. Last year, we processed around 15 tons of coffee. And yeah, some of the oil went into these products. The idea and the objective for this year is to increase that to at least 40 to 50 tons this year. Next, please. Our second product already on the market is Sorika Flour, which is high in fiber, high in proteins. It replaces, it's a gluten-free alternative to malt as a colorant. It also delays microbial spoilage due to its composition and antioxidant activity. Doesn't have a flavor of coffee, more nutty, chocolate type of taste, since the majority of the flavor compounds end up in the oil that we extract first from the coffee. You can use it in anything that you want. Basically, it's more for manufacturers to under creativity, although we have shown its application in pizzas, rye breads, nugget broths, crepes, cookies, chocolates. I mean, you name it. It's for you to be creative. Next, please. We also offer here in Copenhagen and all around Europe, we offer circular partnerships. As we have grown Caffe Bueno, we have gotten a lot of interest for many different hotels, train stations, and corporates to close the loop in this way, in this current waste stream that they have. So even though we are not a B2C, an end product manufacturer, we have developed some private label to be able to meet this demand. And how it works is that we pick up the coffee from their facilities, then we process them into oil and the different compounds that then we put back into the personal care products that they want. And either they are using it directly in their offices or they give it as part of their, let's say, as part of their employee wellness packages. Next, please. So we are 4 years old, almost 4 years and a half, I would say. We started in the end of 2016. Everything, the catalyst of everything started in 2017, where we got our first grant from the Danish Innovation Fund. Then in 2018, we got our pre-seed investment for 70k euros from a Danish investor that allow us to do our first pilot productions and proof of concepts, so to say that way, in terms of application. Then in 2019, we started our first sales of our oil, flour, and fibers, and we started collaborating with some of the biggest corporates all around Europe, from L'Oreal in their accelerator, with some food manufacturers through the EIT Food, and also through Kickstart, where we met Givaudan, which is our one of our commercial R&D partners for the coffee oil. Last year, we closed our seed round for 1.1, which was challenging because, I mean, from the time that we started, people ask more, why do you do this? So now at least people are starting to see that bioeconomy is the future. Many investors are still reluctant or for high capex investments such as ours, but I mean, if you want to build the future, you need to build the infrastructure around it, and that's exactly in the stage that the bioeconomy and the circular bioeconomy. Currently, this year, our aim, as I mentioned, is 40 tons of coffee at least that we want to upcycle. We just hired 2 new people, and probably we're going to end up with 3 more by the end of the year. So in total, 8. We have several ingredients on the pipeline that we will announce ideally in Q3, Q4 this year, and also on the beginning of next year. We have a couple of more partnerships and launches of brands and products that are using our current ingredients in the market, that you will probably start seeing more coffee and its derivatives more on the market, and hopefully also enjoying the health benefits that these ingredients bring to the general consumer and to society. Next. So this is the team. Currently we are 5 people full-time, and I'm the CEO. Then my 2 partners, Alejandro and Camilo. Alejandro is in charge of the front of the house, to say that way, everything commercial, marketing, business development, and products in general. Camilo is in charge of finance, operations, compliance, and logistics. And then we have Adnan, more than 15 years, as a bioprocess engineer within the fats and oil industry, and as a plant manager in XPX Flow. And we have Kara, who is a master in food health and innovation from Copenhagen University, and she's our current product developer and market research. Next, please. So as I mentioned, these are currently some of our partnerships. Our investors are Vækstfonden from Denmark, Pauli Group, which is the biggest coffee company in the Nordics. Then we have also the Yield Lab, who is also one of our investors. We have different research partnerships going on with DTI, the Danish Technology Institute, and Minho University through their Tribury Institute. We're also currently a B Corp and also part of Europa Bio. And we have commercial partnerships with Givaudan and Norban, who is also a distributor for the flour and fiber. Next, please. I think that was all. But thank you very much for listening and for your interest. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing some more of your questions.
So thank you very much for this interesting talk on a very interesting value chain popping up from your side. It sounds really interesting to listen to you as a young company in this case. And I would think to directly start with a question that is directly linked to this. Because we had in the last talk, we had the question of an SME, how to pop up. And you already did some collaboration, for example, with L'Oreal. So what are the main hurdles for a young startup like yours to come into business with such an idea?
Well, I mean, I think in general for all the companies in the bioeconomy that are young, unfortunately, we are very research intensive and science based, and we, as I mentioned before, many of the processes and things that we're building, we need to build it from scratch. So I think that is the challenge in general. How do you manage that scale up and that commercialization? Because as well, many of the big corporates and clients that you want, they want to see first that someone is backing you so that they can be a bit more safe. And then your investors as well, they want someone kind of with a takeoff buy of your products that you're offering. So trying to juggle that chicken egg situation, I would say, is one of the biggest challenges. And probably at the beginning, you have to sacrifice maybe some margins to say it that way. But at the end of the day, you are, at least in our case, we're building this for the long term. I don't think Caffe Bueno is a company that is just going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years. I think bioeconomy is not the future only, rather the present. And I believe that Caffe Bueno is a company that will be standing up in 100 years from now. I think this is a new way of doing things.
That's a very optimistic view. But directly coming back again to the startup, there was also a question in the audience. So how do you plan the startup? You already mentioned you are going to go to 50 tons a year, as far as I understood, and you are working with a feedstock that is very decentralized. So you have to collect all the coffee grounds. And how do you do it by now? So and how do you imagine it could happen in future if you go for 50, 100 or whatever tons?
Yeah, Fortunately, there's a lot of coffee in Europe, and that's also why I think it's one of the best places to start a coffee recycling business. Right now, also, that's why we focus on industrial partners. So, for example, even though, let's say, 1,000 tons, for example, if we want to set that as the capacity for our biorefinery, there are corporates that produce thousands of tons a year. To put it in context, Nestle, I think, produces maybe around 20,000 tons of instant coffee a year. So, I mean, in the big picture scenario, let's say our amounts are still relatively not much compared to others. So the key, at least for starting up, I would say, is partnering up with high volume waste producers to try to avoid that, as you mentioned, the different mixture of sources. That I don't think is an issue, but that is one of the questions, of course, that clients have first on the term of traceability and origin, which I believe is very important. So I think you have to have that good from scratch and don't try to complicate yourself too much, rather keep it as simple as possible at the beginning.
There's another question concerning the future of your company. So will Caffe Bueno in future also use other coffee byproducts like silver skin and other parts of the coffee plant? Or do you now concentrate only in question mark on the coffee grounds?
Absolutely. I mean, our focus right now is absolutely only on the coffee grounds. Let's say that is our bread and butter. This is what we do, and this is the raw material that we have been working during the last years. But in the farms and in coffee producing countries, there is still a lot of waste that maybe they use as a fertilizer, but you can do so much more with that as well, in terms that could add benefit to the farming itself, in terms of pesticides, biopesticides, and different things that could add value as well to the end consumer. So we are seeing currently are actually exploring different projects at origin. Of course, we're seeing it from a business perspective, but I would say that this project we consider it more from a social impact perspective rather from a business perspective, to say it that way, at least for the time being.
And do you see bigger potential for your products in the cosmetic or food industry, and why?
I think it doesn't matter. I think nowadays the lines between cosmetics and food are more blurred than ever. I think maybe what you consume, maybe it's better for your skin, what you eat. I think they are very more interrelated. So that is exactly what Caffe Bueno is trying to show and play, that coffee is so much more that what it serves for your skin, if you ingest it or if you eat it, might have another benefit. So actually, I don't think it's impossible to choose to say it that way. I think it has its own benefits for a different application, and it also depends on the part of the coffee that we're talking about.
Okay, and then we have a question from the audience on the production. How do you deal with microbial spoilage, mycotoxins, and others?
Yeah, we have developed a biopreservation system. So we have a pending patent on this. Basically, we develop a container or a waste container where we install the coffee waste producer locations, and they put the coffee waste there. And this prevents. We have a system that this uses to prevent waste and mold and bacteria to grow in the grounds. Then, of course, we have quality control in and quality control out that to meet the industry standards, to comply.
Okay, and from your side, what will be the next partner of wish you will have?
The next
partner of wish. So what will be the next partner you want to have and where we can promote you?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I cannot marry to any partners. I would like all the manufacturers in the world to use more coffee. So, I mean, I think we're going in the right direction. I think in terms of Germany, you can support us directly. Nivea just did a pre-launch of a Nivea product using our coffee oil. So, I mean, you can go for it and support us directly in Germany. I think that will be the most direct and efficient way to do it right now. But for sure, you're going to see more launches and exciting things coming down the pipeline this year and next.
There was another question popped up from the audience as a last question. Can your biotech process also be used to upcycle other byproducts?
Of course, I mean, let's say, yeah, of course it can. We need to adjust it depending to the biomass that we are treating. But I would say, yeah, of course we can.
Okay, so thank you very much for this talk.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.